There was a controversial scheme which was strongly advocated by very senior members of the government. When I became Education Minister in '85, I reviewed the scheme. I decided that it was unfair to the children whose mothers do not have university degrees, and it was not working anyway. So I decided to bring it up again to Cabinet. I was happy that I was able to persuade my Cabinet colleagues, including the senior members of government who had advocated the scheme, that the scheme should be revoked. And I think that that was a difficult decision because it means admitting that a mistake had been made. And I think it's always difficult to do that. But I think it was the right thing to do.
What is a dispute which you have had to mediate in your life? And what did you learn from the experience? Mr. Tan Kee Lan first, please.
You can pass to somebody.
Whoever's ready.
I guess the question wants to elicit from you the role you've played as a peacemaker. Yeah, whether you can remember any instance in which you play a helpful role in bringing...
Peacemaker or mediator is all right?
Right. Bringing a dispute or conflict to an amicable
Well, I
resolution.
did mention my experience in the corporate sector as a CEO, and that's how it has worked out. Despite differences of opinion, we have constructive discussion, conversations all the time. It's always engaging in conversations and all that. There were no throwing or tempers and all that. We are adults. We behave like adults.
Okay, let me then answer. In recent years, I've been getting a lot of requests for assistance. People who found themselves cheated of their money or they were badly treated. Now, I help them, but it's not just one case, but many. I help them to understand the issue and how to present them to the relevant body to seek some solution.
I think that the area, particularly when I had to resolve differences between different ministries, was in the promotion of entrepreneurship, something I've been advocating for over 20 years. It's difficult because different ministries have different point of view. The Ministry of Finance wants to make sure that no money is ever wasted. So when we launched the Technopreneurship Investment Scheme, they were very skeptical. Ministry of Trade and Industry is, of course, wants to develop a more viable economic ecosystem. And, of course, I believe that it's good for Singapore to have a mixture of big enterprises and small enterprises. But there are strong differences of view, held responsibility by very capable people. You have to bring them to the table and resolve it. Even today, it's not entirely resolved. We are not entirely there yet. But I think we have made some progress. There's a venture capital industry here. People are more inclined now and ready to take on enterprises, not in the business field, but also in the social enterprise scheme. So encouraging our bright, creative young people to strike out on their own, whether in business or in social enterprise, I think is a very good thing for Singapore. We are not there yet, but we must persevere and not give up. We will succeed eventually.
Dr. Tan.
Well, if I recall, one of my most difficult disputes to solve was to resettle a 100-year-old temple. I was tasked by LTA and also to try to resettle this 100-year-old temple at Malabar Street. Now, it's very difficult because there's a lot of cultural elements there. I tried to give them a place. Say, for example, they were situated in, I think, Albert Street. It's a Hokkien-speaking area. So I tried to settle them at Moss Street, and they tell me, no, this is a Cantonese area. So I have to go and find another new site. They chose this burnt-out house to be there, new temple. So I remember I went to the minister said, oh, good, give it to them. So I managed I thought that was over, but it was not over because after a while they got to be resettled again. But to cut the long story short, it ended very happily because they finally found a site, a much smaller site in Geylang. And they were grateful to me because I was quite careful. When you resettle a temple, it's very, very, you got to be the sentiments, the feeling, the anger, and ultimately, finally, when I resettle, They even had my name engraved there to thank me for resettling them. So I thought there was a very amicable solution to a very difficult problem.
Before we wrap, we'd like to give each candidate 1 minute to answer the question, why should Singaporeans vote for you? We'll start with Mr. Tan Kin Lian this time.
Now, I'm the most independent, neutral, and non-partisan of all candidates. I've never stood in any general election, and I don't have to carry the baggage of defending past policies. I have a track record of standing up for Singaporeans in their hours of need. For example, the Lehman crisis. I've always been honest and fair and have the courage to speak out on what is right. My pledge to donate at least half of the President's salary to charity is a demonstration of my belief in public service. In the important areas of safeguarding our reserves, I am perhaps the best qualified, having managed the lifetime savings of over 1 million policyholders of NTUC income for 30 years. I come from a humble background. Similar to most ordinary Singaporeans, I like to ask Singaporeans to give me your vote, and together we work together for a better life.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. We'll just cut you off there. Dr. Tan Cheng Bock.
I have the balance of all the necessary qualities to be your president. In terms of international experience, I have represented Singapore for 15 years as leader of the Singapore parliamentary groups for Asia and also for Europe. I have a wide range of financial expertise as chairman and director of the Chuan Hub Holdings. And also, I'm also a director of ING Bank Private Asia for 2 years. And I've handled billions of dollars when I was executive in the executive committee building an MRT system. I feel like I can relate to many people. People have trusted me. They've given me a very good mandate in Ayer Rajah. And I have stood up many times for them. And I think if I believe that something is wrong, I will tell you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tan. Ms. Tan Jee Say.
Well, I have 5 qualities for this job: government service experience, diplomatic experience by meeting other foreign governments when I was in the service, and I have sense of independence. I have never been a member of the ruling party, so that I have no emotional ties with the ruling party. And I have done full-time national service. I empathize with the people who have done so, the young Singaporeans and their families. And last but not least, I have the heart. My symbol is the heart of the nation. I have empathy both for the government dilemma and for the people. The government's dilemma in wanting to solve the problems of the economy without lowering economic growth. And I have sympathies for the people who want economic growth, but not at the expense of the poor. So I hope to resolve it and put happiness of the people at the heart of economic policies of the government.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tan Jee Say. Dr. Tony Tan.
The President of Singapore has very important powers, including the custodial powers. He's likely to have used them during this term of office. Global economy is fragile, markets economies are jittery, lack confidence. I believe that in such circumstances, Singapore needs a president with a steady hand, experience, and the ability to understand the complexities of what goes on in the world. I can do that. I can represent Singapore at home and abroad with confidence and dignity. I will watch over our national reserves carefully to make sure the reserves from the past are used with utmost care in the present so that there's enough for the future. The President cannot do this alone. He has to build partnerships, he has to work with the government, all political parties, civil society, to bind people together. So I hope that Singaporeans will give me a chance to work with them and for them to face the challenges with confidence for the future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tony Tan. Now, those of you who have sent your questions in online, do stay with us on channelnewsasia.com. The 4 candidates will join me as I field your questions to them after this broadcast. We hope tonight's program has given you a better understanding of the candidates' positions, their suitability for office and their motivations. Each of them qualifies to run for the office. Each of them brings different qualifications and has different qualities. We hope this discussion has helped you to choose a good president for Singapore. Thank you to Professor Koh, Mr. Janadas, and to all the candidates for joining us this evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.